Good day, good evening, and good afternoon. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to BioNews Network. We are currently tracking all of the congressional activity with respect to the passage of the new $1.9 trillion stimulus package, which includes $1,400 checks for Americans, as well as extended employment benefits extending beyond March 13th, possibly through September, and a lot of different other benefits that are going to be available to Americans going forward. Keep in mind that this $1.9 trillion package is also a major injection of funds for states and localities, as well as injecting funds for increasing the distribution of vaccine, which is going to help with the response and to the current pandemic. And as we can see, we actually see very, very favorable results so far. Unfortunately, we're now dealing with different elements, such as elements dealing with variants, so that is a major situation. But going forward, very, very favorable news for your $1,400 stimulus check. And we do anticipate that possibly towards, let's say, the end of February. I had originally thought that the passage of the next round of stimulus checks, long awaited $1,400 stimulus checks, which is going to be a major injection for many Americans across this great country. Many people who are now wrestling with the new rent that is due. We're now 1 week into the month of February. While many philanthropists have actually helped to inject a lot of funds into rental assistance programs across this great nation, many states have actually started to receive millions of dollars. Even cities are now finding funding, unused funds that were slated for projects that were well into 2022, 2023 are now reappropriated for rental assistance programs. So by all means, this is going to be a plea to those who are struggling to face the rent. Please do review and please do check into possibilities that within your own city and within your own state, your own state Congress has reappropriated funds and different resources to assist everyday Americans with trying to deal with the burden of paying rent, as well as paying utilities, light bill, gas bill in these trying times. So let's get back to what's going to be happening with the $1,400 stimulus check. So the Democrats are going back and forth. House Democrats, progressive Republicans are going back and forth to determine at this particular time. The most heated area of this discussion is which segment of the population actually do they feel deserve $1,400 checks. Now, unfortunately, they have been provided with information that those who are wealthy, or relatively wealthy, earning $200,000 or more, were actually using their stimulus checks to top up their savings or perhaps invest in the stock market. And for whatever reason, this has actually perturbed quite a few of the lawmakers to think that everyday Americans could have the control over their finances to actually appropriate their stimulus checks towards other means other than just paying for groceries or paying for rent. Now, this raises many questions, and I do understand this is taxpayer money and we have to try and be fiscally responsible. But at the same time, the everyday Americans are hurting. Middle class and lower income Americans are hurting right now, and it's actually clouding and preventing and producing quite a few delays going forward as far as when low income and middle class Americans are going to be receiving their $1,400 stimulus check. As we see now, based on our monitoring of C-SPAN and different Twitter feeds, we do see that they are coming to some consensus as of this moment that the $1,400 stimulus checks will be capped at for individuals at $75,000 earning for your 2019 income, and for couples you're looking at $150,000 per year. Now keep in mind, only a few days ago they were actually discussing limiting and lowering that limit to $50,000 per year and $100,000 a year for couples. And this was actually a major talking point for many people in the middle class, because there are a lot of people who are right on the edge of making $55,000 to $65,000 a year. But keep in mind, the cost of living in different markets is different. $55,000 and $65,000 per year earning a salary or a household income, let's say in the state of New York, is it stretches a little bit differently versus you earning that same amount of money, let's say in the state of Nevada. So the cost of living, it doesn't really map out to be the same when you factor in the cost of living and different expenses. Rent will be cheaper, generally cheaper for a one bedroom in one state versus another state. So the criteria for judging whether one family who makes $65,000 a year in one state versus $65,000 a year in another state is kind of it doesn't seem fair. But then again, life isn't fair. But when we take a closer look at what they're actually squabbling over, it seems that they are missing the boat quite a bit, and they're going to, there are a lot more issues to be resolving right now, particularly with solving the issue with childhood poverty in this country, which is a shame. Also, in many states, evictions are continuing to go through as scheduled, even though there's a moratorium. So that's also the next issue too. What's going to happen for a lot of the people who are now facing having to have back rent in arrears of $10,000 or $12,000 that extend all the way to last year, mid last year, when they initially lost their job and then they start falling behind on their rent. So there we go back to the initial issue. The American people need to see this $1,400 stimulus check in their hands as soon as possible. For many people, it's a difference between putting food on the table for their children. And it's also, for many people, it's a difference between getting caught up with their rent and having a roof over their head going into March, going into spring. Now, when we think of spring, we associate it with a time of rebirth and renewal. And hopefully by the springtime, Americans will see the $1,400 stimulus check starting to pop in to their accounts, and it's well-needed funds. Now, keep in mind, we do have a new administration, and this is a first major stimulus package that they're trying to get through. And for whatever it's worth, many people were promised a $2,000 stimulus check. Keep in mind, many people received by direct deposit in the first week of January of this year, the first part, which was $600. So now they're waiting for what was promised of an additional $1,400 stimulus check. But the way it stands right now, it looks like if you were to take a look at your 2019 income, you're actually looking at a limit for individuals of $75,000 a year and couples for $150,000 a year. So that is what we're actually looking at with the stimulus checks at this time. Now, fortunately, if you do remember, there was a Continued Assistance Act that was signed by a former president on December 27th. Now, there have been a lot of developments between now in the first week of February and December 27th. Many of the states have actually completed their initial programming so that they can actually start dispensing and distributing. If you remember, it's an extension of 11 weeks for PEUC as well as PUA, PUA which is a program that was basically brought into effect through the CARES Act, allowing with PUA for, let's say, musicians who lost their jobs playing in bars or bartenders or gig workers, Uber drivers, Lyft drivers. So now those people, fortunately, will have an 11-week extension that has been programmed into the system. But do keep in mind, with PUA, there is quite a bit of extensive documentation that is now being required by the federal government. The funds are there, and the funds are being distributed to various states using various criteria guidance and protocol that has been implemented into programming. But do keep in mind that your respective state is going to be requiring a lot of different documents. They may even require your 2020 taxes. And do keep in mind that the IRS had a slight delay in accepting e-filing going into 2021. So it does complicate the issue for a lot of people on PUA. And fortunately, for those people who previously didn't qualify for unemployment benefits, this is now available. It'll take you from 39 weeks of poor benefits up to 50 weeks, and then you'll get an additional supplemental income of $300 per week going forward, but that ends March 13th. And that's where the impact of the $1.9 trillion stimulus package comes into question. Is there going to be a gap? And a lot of states, especially states in the Northeast and states that had, let's say, not as up-to-date computerized systems, require a little bit more time to upgrade their systems for distribution of unemployment benefits on the PEUC and PUA going forward. So hopefully the $1.9 trillion package will be passed in time. Guidelines from the Department of Labor will actually be going out to the respective states, and they will have enough time to go ahead and program their systems respectively, so that there isn't a gap between the March 13th cutoff date for the supplemental, the extra supplemental $300 a week on top of what you qualify for, and then it's anticipated that will be a bridge from March to September, and it will also allow a lot of unemployed people. It's anticipated that over 20 million people. It's probably closer to 30 million, because there are many people who have simply just dropped off the job market completely. They've given up on looking for work simply because there's so many businesses that closed down. But it's officially about 20 million people. Congress and the lawmakers recognize that they're looking at supporting about 20 million people, which is a significant portion of the working class here in the United States that are need desperately to see this support. So that $1.9 trillion package is going to be a very good bridge from March 13th, possibly into September and beyond, and that will allow the economy to grow. And without any doubt, we do see that the stimulus, even the $600 stimulus, as small as it was for many people, who speculated on how far $600 would stretch, economists did see the impact of the $600 stimulus in the economy, whether it was a half percentage point increase in GDP or higher. And they anticipate that the $1.9 trillion package is going to be an increase in GDP going into spring and summertime of 2021. So all of the different elements of the $1.9 trillion package are going to be very, very important, not only for low-income Americans, not only important for middle class, and also those who are classified as high earners, but they may be suffering in a different way relative to lower income and middle class Americans. The elements of the $1.9 trillion package has ramifications on many different levels, and it's going to affect millions of people. So here at Bell News Network, we will continue to monitor the situation with the $1.9 trillion stimulus package. We are going to try and pinpoint exactly when you may receive your $1,400 stimulus check. We want to know exactly how far the extension for the unemployment benefits will take people. Keep in mind, a lot of people are simply reopening their claims from the previous PEUC or PUA from 2020, from their previous eligibility going forward. And then it gets complicated, especially for people who are new, filing for the first time. Do they switch from PEUC and go to the FDEB1, which is for federal, which is triggered by the respective states' true unemployment figure? Their triggers built into the system, and the Department of Labor uses these triggers to determine whether a tier 3 or federal, a fusion of state and federal extended benefits at the federal level is available as a tier 3 for the unemployed. So these are all issues that are going to be addressed by the $1.9 trillion stimulus package. Please like, share, and subscribe. And we will continue to monitor the situation with the stimulus going forward as we go into the month of March. And here we are almost mid-February. So this is a very, very important transition time for Americans. And we will continue to bring the latest information for you. And as always, thank you for watching BioNews Network. And please look for our next notification on stimulus, economic relief, jobs, and so forth. And thanks for watching. Have a great day.